There we go. Let's pull it apart.
Man, Doug, you know, you're strong considering your age.
Age? I'm a young man.
Welcome to another action-packed episode of Sam's Garage. First up, Sam takes on an LT1 engine rebuild, upgrading it with top-of-the-line Holley Performance products. Then Doug steps in to teach Sam the intricacies of how carburetors work, giving a hands-on lesson of cleaning and rebuilding this classic component. Next, Sam transforms Eric's 76 Nova by installing cutting-edge Valtronic exhaust system, enhancing its performance, giving it a modern roar. And finally, Bob from Rod End Supply joined Sam to replace the sway bar end links on his Corvette, ensuring top-notch handling and stability. Today, Sam's taking us on an exciting challenge, rebuilding an LT1 engine with premium upgrades from Holley. He's turning up the heat on this modern power plant, unlocking its full potential. From precision engineering to cutting-edge technology, join us as we push the boundaries of automotive performance.
Okay, so we're all familiar with the LS engine. Came out in Corvette in 1997. We've been using it all the way through now, really. Well, this here is an LT engine. It was introduced in 2014 in the Corvette. Now, what we're going to be doing with this one, we're going to be first putting in Brian Tooley complete camshaft in it to get rid of all that variable valve timing. The lifters are horrible. We're going to put a limiter inside the camshaft gear as well. These are cool engines because it's basically a direct injected LS. There's nothing wrong with them. They make a lot of horsepower. They're very strong. They get good fuel economy. It's just a predecessor to the LS engine, and it's just a little bit better, so don't be afraid of them. Let's get started by tearing this thing down. Okay, so you guys saw me remove the head bolts in sequence. It's very important you do that so that you don't accidentally warp the head in any way. So always want to go from the outside to the inside when removing it, opposite order when installing it. Now this engine, as you can see, has a lot of milk in it. That's because at some point it hydro-locked, but there's nothing wrong with the engine. I looked at all the sleeves, I looked at the pistons, I looked underneath. Everything seems to be fine. Now I'm going to continue on with my build-up and then do a compression test once I put a flex plate on it. The good thing about the Brian Tooley Cam kit is he gives you everything you need, everything new to keep the integrity of the engine and you not have to go to the store for any parts. So when you guys are installing your limiter, you want to make sure that you follow the instructions, because if you don't follow the instructions, you will absolutely ruin your day. You don't want this to ever come apart. But there is two bolts that you have to pay attention to. You have a retainer here that's going to relieve the spring from this bolt. And this is the bolt that holds the spring wound up. You can tell because it's got a nipple at the end, whereas the regular ones don't. Now the one to the right and below that is this one right here. You just want to loosen it. This retainer back here is unloading the spring for me to pull out this bolt. This bolt is what holds the whole spring in place. Now we're going to take it, move it, get our limiter, so you can put them in any one of them. Close it up, put the pin bolt in first, so then you can breathe. Put the rest of them in. For me to get this guy out of here, I got to remove this and put the nipple in the middle where the spring is, so that the tool has a spot to actually grab that spring. Now, Brian Tooley does give you a new cam bolt. Make sure you guys use it, okay? It's very important. Now, I can reverse procedure, put it back together. So I'm ready to install the Holley LT1 oil pan kit. What's cool about this kit that it comes with everything you need as far as the block off plate, all new O-rings and gaskets, and AC Delco boxes and bags, and you're ready to go. Except you will have to go and pick yourself up a tube of RTV. That's the only thing I don't like about the LT engine, is they got rid of all the gaskets for some reason. So the first thing we're gonna do is install our first windage tray. This is gonna go before the sump. You want to make sure to read the instructions because this part can be confusing. If you take it slow, I think you'll be just fine. Now we're going to go in with our pickup, put the gasket on, snake it in the hole. So what you want to do is you tighten the flange gasket first because that's where your sealing occurs. Now don't forget guys, when you're doing the oil pan, make sure to let the RTV sit at room temperature for 20 minutes before you put the pan on. Next week, I'm gonna get me an MST Atomic Air Force intake manifold along with hooker headers. We're gonna continue on with our Holley LT1 build.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. Gear up for a hands-on lesson as Doug takes the lead, teaching Sam the ins and outs of carburetors. Watch as they tear down, clean, and rebuild this classic component, unlocking the secrets to optimal performance. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a curious novice, this segment is packed with valuable tips and insights you won't want to miss.
Welcome to the Doug Harris Carb Tech Hour. Today, Doug is going to explain to everybody the proper way of rebuilding the carburetor and its explanation of how it works.
Well, you know, Sam, I've been playing with Holley carburetors for, gosh, I think close to 40 years. Let's go ahead, pull it apart. Let's talk about it, how you put it back together, what the functions are, the parts are, and how you set it up.
I can't wait to see this. So this is the carburetor that came on this vehicle originally in '97. Yeah. So this is very much similar to the one that we have here on the bench.
Yes. Two different types of carburetors. This one is a single pumper, and what I mean is it has the accelerator pumps on the front tube, and it doesn't have a pumper on the back. The accelerator pump is when you hit the accelerator, it puts a squirt of fuel into the engine. All right, depending on what type of engine that you have built, there's times that you want to get a lot more fuel into it. So if you hit your accelerator with a double pumper onto it, it squirts. It has what they call center squirters, so it'll literally squirt fuel right down your venturis in order to go ahead and to make it operate. It'll give you more fuel faster. But if your car's not set up right, if the camshaft's not right, if everything's not right where it can accept that fuel, and you put a double pumper where it should be a single pumper, it's going to give it too much fuel and your car is going to bog.
So in EFI, that's no different than the PE table. What happens is that when you open it, such a surge of air goes into it. If you didn't have that extra fuel, it would run lean and bog down until the fuel comes back.
That's exactly correct. Except it's a mechanical and it's a Venturi effect in order to make it all operate. This is a sight tube. You want to make sure that your fuel level is level inside about midway point. So you kind of screw it in and then you move your float up and down, and this is how you adjust it. You loosen it here and you can screw it up and down, and then that'll watch the position of your float. So when you're setting it up, you'll actually measure your distances, and I'll be adjusting that, and it'll raise and lower my float. So that gives me a rough location, but once I set it up with fuel and I'm setting the car up, then I'm going to go ahead and do my final adjustment, watching it through my sight tool so I can make sure the fuel is right. So then you've got your metering plate right here. This plate comes off, and these are the jets. This will control your high-speed jets as you're going down the road. This is your low-speed jets. This is for idle. This is when you're going down the road. So if you've built an engine, you're going to have more fuel for it. These are the jets you're going to go ahead and change out. On the other side, same thing. You have your jets. Then you have what they call as a power valve, and you can have different size power valves, and that allows the fuel to meter as it's going through the metering block. They have different size pumps on the bowl. So you can go with a bigger pump, get greater volume, a smaller one, smaller volume. When we pull it out, you'll see the diaphragm onto it. The number 65 is a real common power valve, and depending on the ranges and stuff that you want and how you're metering the fuel, it'll come right here on the power valve. So you have your metering plate, your power valve where everything goes through it, puts the fuel through everything. This gasket then directs the fuel into the carburetor itself. One of the mistakes I see people do quite often is they put the carburetor straight on top with just a very, very small gasket. You need to have a gasket that also insulates the carburetor from the intake manifold, because as the intake manifold gets hot, what you don't want to have happen is your carburetor to get hot, because all of your gas will start atomizing and it's not going to operate properly as you go through. And they actually make, for a lot of guys that you were a drag racer, cool cans where you'd actually cool the fuel down, because the colder the fuel is, the more horsepower you get.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Joe, I noticed the barbecue that you had, the appreciation barbecue that you had for your clients and customers and dealers.
I really look at serving the community, and one of the things that we do is we sponsor local, like this is a local battle bot. We have 2 robots that are New Hampshire teams that we sponsor, at least a half a dozen race cars. And really what I'm looking for when we do that is these race cars, they tend to be father and son, and they involve grandparents and the moms and the aunts. It's a way for the family to be together, and that's really what I sponsor. Now, it's automotive, so it obviously fits in with the products. As a business, we should be part of our community, and New Hampshire Children's Scholarship Fund was another thing.
And let me tell you, being a grassroots racer myself, I can't tell you how much it means to get a kickstart from a sponsor like yourself, because we go out to the racetrack with not a lot of money in our pockets, and for someone like yourself to help us out, to get us to where we're going and have that fun with the family at the racetrack is absolutely priceless.
We as a business can do something that spurs a family relationship and encourages you to take on a passion for racing.
Welcome back to more Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. Next up, Sam installs a cutting-edge Valvetronic muffler system on Eric's 76 Chevy Nova. Watch as this classic muscle car gets a modern twist, enhancing the performance and sound with advanced exhaust technology. With the exhaust system now installed, this classic muscle car is one step closer to hitting the streets.
Last week we installed a quick performance 9-inch rear end in this 76 Nova, and the exhaust system didn't fit because it had an H pipe, and so the drive shaft now lives exactly where this used to live. So I went to Seth at Metro Mufflers in Gainesville, and I had a pair of Valvetronics mufflers installed. You see I got the universal mufflers, and what this is going to do for us is take away the drone at highway speeds, but also give us the sound that we're looking for at the car shows.
It'll be perfect for this car.
Yep, and this should be the last item on the list as far as the mechanics go. Couple of things on the outside, and Eric should be able to enjoy his Nova for the show circuit coming up this summer.
Absolutely.
All these old cars, they leak in the trunk. No matter what you do, they leak in the trunk. This one does have the original trunk seal in it. As you can see, it's wet inside there. So the last thing the Valvetronics likes is water. This is not weatherproof. So if you're gonna use it in an old car like this with the trunk, just make sure you put it somewhere high so that it does not get wet. I don't have any switched power back here. I've got water in the trunk, so for me, I'm gonna put this guy underneath the dashboard. That way, I can run my vacuum line that comes also in the box through the firewall, and I have enough here to get all the way to the back to both mufflers. I also have a T-fitting that comes in the box, along with my power cord. Now the power cord is designed to go into a cigarette lighter. Cool thing about this is we can always use a cigarette lighter to adapt to some of the component in the shop. What I want to do is cut it off. That way I got a power and ground inside here, and I got a cigarette lighter I can use for powering a component in the future. When you're using the barb fitting here, as you can see it's barbed, it's gonna hold the hose in place once you attach it and slip it on. You don't have to use zip ties to keep these in place. The only time you have to use zip ties to keep vacuum hoses onto barb fittings is in the boosted application. When you're running so much boost, your vacuum lines are popping off. What you also wanna do is be careful when you zip tie your vacuum line to anything in the car. If you make it too tight, that air will not get to whatever source that vacuum is running, and you'll have an in operation. All right, so you don't wanna do that, be very careful. What I did basically was come off the control box. I teed off with my barb that's supplied. I went over to one muffler here and the other muffler there. No need for zip ties at the mufflers because it's under a vacuum state, not a boosted state. What I did with the vacuum lines is I put 4 connections, 2 on the bottom of the car and 2 on the side plates where the seat belts go to. So you want to be very mindful of that. You got to be very careful. I remember when I was young putting a stereo system in my Tercel, I put the box in the trunk, and we've all done it. You all know who you are. You put long wooden screws through the floorboard and into your plastic tank. So let's not do that. What you want to do in this case is when you are screwing into the bottom of the car, you want to find a ridge, and you want to find a very small screw so that when you screw it in, it doesn't go past the sheet metal of the car and just barely pokes to the carpet, and this will seal. You know what drone is?
The artificial noise?
Yeah, the artificial noise from the exhaust system that is usually there when you lug the engine.
Okay.
Lugging the engine is anything under 2,000 RPM. So that's why you hear a drone when you're going down the highway. But with Valvetronic exhaust, you can go ahead and turn off the mufflers, getting rid of that drone completely, because when you're cruising down the highway, you're really not looking for horsepower. But when that car pulls up next to you and you guys are about to do that race, you turn on the mufflers and you got all your sound and all your horsepower.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. Bob from Rod End Supply brings us cutting-edge adjustable sway bar end links for Sam's Corvette. Watch as we fine-tune the handling and stability of this iconic machine, making it ready to tackle the curves with precision and confidence. It's all about maximizing performance with these top-tier components.
My season wouldn't be complete without having Bob Douglas from Rod End Supply coming to help me with a project like the Corvette. We did the truck last season.
Yes, we did.
All right, so the Corvette C5 has plastic sway bar end links. The C6, unless you get a Z06, also has plastic sway bar end links. This is a metal C6 Z06 that I had Bob duplicate for me because I needed some adjustability. So what did you bring me?
Well, what I did is I brought a couple of different styles. First off, the link should be about a 1/2 inch as far as threaded size. That way, because it's a little more sizable, and then also it gives it more strength, of course. So what I've done is I've screwed a male into a female, so that way it is adjustable, so you can adjust the length depending on how your sway bar is going to set or how you want it to set. Then in this case, where we have a 1/2 inch hole in the ball and then a 1/2 inch thread, what we've done is now we have high misalignment spacers that neck it down to 3/8. So that we use a 3/8 bolt, and that 3/8 bolt is about the same size as a stud here. So that's what we've done. The second series that I brought is basically the same style of rod end. The only difference is that I've put a stud in the hole in the ball, and then that way you don't have to fool with an extra bolt. And it depends on what you want. If there's room enough to get these up installed, that's perfect. If you don't have room enough to have a stud sticking out to snake it in between everything, then you can use this series and put a bolt in it.
And these are all parts that you would have in your Rod End Supply catalog that anyone could go in and order these parts and make these things themselves.
Yeah, these parts are stock.
Sway bar end links, most cases are going to have an Allen in the middle of it, and because the stud's going to want to spin on you because they got locking nuts, so you're going to loosen it, the nut first, and then you're going to put your Allen socket in there, and you're going to put it in the right rotation, tightening it, and that'll basically remove the nut from the stud, getting your sway bar end link out.
All right, Sam, we got everything laid out here ready to start our install. Once again, I brought two different styles. This is a 1/2 inch rod end, male and female screwed together. That way we can adjust the link if we need to. The 1/2 inch rod ends have a 1/2 inch hole in the ball as normal. What we've done is that we've put stainless steel misalignment spacers into the ball, and then that way we can use a 3/8 thread bolt that goes through there, because that's the same size as what's on there as original link. And then the other was, I made these up, same rod ends, only this time I put 3/8 studs in them, so that way we wouldn't have to use a bolt. We've got a hex.
Oh, look at that, that's nice.
Yeah.
See, that way you can just use a wrench on the outside. Yeah, because what happens is that if you don't loosen that nut first, you're gonna strip the hex in the middle of it, then it's over.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to Bob once again for coming and saving my butt and getting us new sway bar end links. As a courtesy, we went ahead and fixed the bushing that was hanging out front.
Yeah.
You know, you probably have a good thought there. It probably was never installed from the factory.
Nope, I'll bet it wasn't.
Yeah, because it was there.
It was on there, it just wasn't hooked up.
So those things worked out really nice, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They worked out great. Ought to give long lasting life.
No flex.
No flex. Probably never ever replace them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, they'll probably be on there forever.
Well, thank you so much. And if you guys want sway bars like that, sway bar end links or rod ends, or you want to fabricate anything for your race cars, you got to check out Rod End Supply.
Be sure to check out Sam's Garage on these other media platforms. Send us questions and feedback to info@samsgaragetv.com. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Sam's Garage. We started with an exciting rebuild of an LT1 engine. Doug shared his expertise teaching Sam the fundamentals of carburetors. Then we modernized Eric's 76 Nova with a cutting-edge Valtronic exhaust system. And Bob from Rod End Supply helped us fine-tune the handling of Sam's Corvette with adjustable sway bar end links.